exploring beyond South America. So we're gonna be today having a very interactive conversation. We don't want to do this a little bit boring, just like a normal presentation, but we do want to have an interactive conversation with James McCallum from Ocean Endeavor, which is one of the unique ways of traveling to Antarctica, and he'll explain a little bit more about this way of traveling to the white continent. But yeah, so let me briefly tell you a little bit about Pure Antarctica. So Pure Antarctica was one of the babies of Pure Travel Group, just launched during the pandemic, of course, and this product was launched in 2022, early this year, in conversations with Antarctica experts, and right now promoting the Ocean Endeavor as a great way to travel to the Antarctica. But as a regional DMC in South America, we found that a lot of buyers are interested in learning a little bit more about this continent and the expeditions, and that probably as experts in selling the South American continent, it would be a great idea to start promoting the Antarctica from Chile or Argentina, which are one of the locations where we have our operation in. So I'm just gonna go briefly about telling some questions and asking some questions to James in terms of the destination itself. And also, James will talk later on a little bit about the Ocean Endeavor journeys and how will they operate.
Mhm.
So thank you, James, and we'll start this interactive conversation. So, James, can you tell us a little bit about where is the Antarctica and where do you recommend is the best way that you can get to this place? Because I know that you can get either from South America or from Australia, but what do you really recommend in terms of when someone is planning a trip or an excursion to the Antarctica?
Yeah, definitely. Well, as you can see, the Antarctica is at the bottom of the world. It's a bit of a unique map from, well, perspective, I suppose. Not many people see it this way, but it offers a good insight into getting to Antarctica. And really, to answer your question, the shortest way possible, the best way to get to Antarctica for non-scientists essentially is from South America. There's a few reasons for that. One, as you can see, there's only three continents that surround it. There's Africa, South America, and Australasia. But Australia and Africa, one, are really far away. It takes about 6 days via ship from the bottom of Australia, and it takes about 9 to 12 days from the bottom of Africa. And just that location on the continent there, it's, I mean, you can go, there's options out of Australia, and it's a lot more rugged, it's a lot more expedition-y, and it can be really hard to actually access the continent, just because of the conditions on these sides of the continent. They're a lot rougher, the sea is a lot more iced over, and it takes a lot longer to get there. So, as opposed to from Ushuaia or Punta Arenas at the bottom of South America, it only takes a day and a half to 2 days to get across. And the peninsula affords different reasons that it's much better. One, it's very well protected, as we'll see later on. It's got a lot of fjords and bays, and it's really, really calm. So it allows you to get off the ships and explore. And it's a lot closer, which means it's a lot faster to get to. And also, I mean, even though the wildlife down there are Antarctic wildlife, they don't like things to be too cold or too crazy either. So because it's so stable and it's so calm and protected in the peninsula, that's where a lot of the wildlife kind of congregate to. So it kind of it achieves, the wildlife aspect, the weather aspect, the access, the time. And with the time also comes the price, because going down there, you pay for fuel. If it takes longer to get there, you use more fuel, it's more expensive. So So it's really ticks all the boxes, and because of that, nearly all of the ships um, go via the bottom of South America, and it's the easiest way to access the continent. To give a bit of perspective, for me to go to the airport here in Australia, to fly all the way to Chile, to Santiago, and then to get on another plane and fly all the way to Punta Arenas, cross over to Ushuaia, get on a ship and cross to the Antarctic continent is still faster and about half the price as just leaving from Australia. So yeah, so not to scare you, going from Australia, it's very, very amazing. But the main way to access and the best way to get to Antarctica is from South America.
Awesome, James. Thank you for the explanation. And we're just gonna continue a little bit more into um, what do you think about like when visiting the Antarctica? Of course, we know this is in the southern hemisphere of the world, so basically the weather it's always cold, but like there's certain times of the year that you can actually have a better chance for visiting and more accessible weather. And at the same time, what do you recommend? What do you recommend when visiting the Antarctica in terms of times, in terms of periods of the year?
Mhm. Well, the ships and the season. Well, the season is from November till March, like the maybe the 30th of October. This season seems to be starting on the 2nd of November and going till about mid-March. And you're right, it's Antarctica. It's at the end of the world, so I don't know if you've been to Patagonia, but in winter it's dark, it's freezing cold. And in Antarctica, all the seawater turns to ice. You can't see anything. All the animals are gone. So really the only time to access it and be able to see anything and access it safely is during the Antarctic summer. So that's when all the animals are migrating there. That's when the ice frees up. That's when there's daylight. So that's when all the ships run, and that's when the season is. It doesn't really change, sometimes by a couple of days, but ultimately it's always from the start of November till mid-March. Now, within that season, there's never a bad time to go. I mean, I just want to emphasize that it's always fantastic. But there are certain times of year, no, sorry, certain times of the season that are better than, well, they're not better than others. It just, um, there's different reasons that you might want to go. For example, November and March are at the kind of the shoulder season. So they're always going to be a bit more affordable. So if you are price conscious, November and February, March itineraries are usually a bit more affordable. Also, the flights and all that tend to be a bit more affordable than during Christmas and New Year's Eve. If it's more about the experience, however, November November is kind of when the season opens up. The animals kind of have just arrived, and they've gone to their colonies. There's still lots of snow, but the animals haven't, kind of lived there for 6 months. They've only just arrived, so they haven't kind of ruined the pristineness of the place, so to speak. They go to the toilet where they live, and they have fish, and they build nests, and they can kind of, it's fantastic because they build a city, but in some ways it takes, it's red and it's yellowy snow because of, doing their business. There's less snow. So in November, we call it kind of the pristine time of year. And really, if you really want landscapes, that's the best time to go because there's a lot of snow. Everything's perfectly white and blue, and you still get the wildlife. You just don't get the bad smells, and you don't get the, I'm not really selling it. And yeah, it's just more, I guess, picturesque. So if you're really into landscapes, and you really want to explore the different fjords and stuff, that's the best time. It's also the time of year that the penguins start courting each other. So basically, as soon as they arrive, they start looking for a female. And the way they do that, one of the ways they do that is impressing them with their nest of rocks. And if the female, thinks they have the best nest, then potentially they will become a couple and mate. It sounds romantic, but it's actually quite funny because they don't go looking for the perfect rock. They just steal them off each other. So, and you can sit there and watch them. They will, there'll be one just standing there looking around, and then another one goes off to find a rock, and he scurries over to his nest and takes a rock. And then after a while, that guy goes and finds another rock, and the guy who had his rock stolen goes and steals his rock back. And it's just hilarious. I know a few years ago they painted all the nests a different color in this biodegradable paint. And after about 3 weeks, all the nests were multicolored, which means they'd just been constantly stealing off each other. So it's quite funny. But yeah, after they're courting, you get to the middle of the year, which is the end of November, December, January, and this is quite a unique time of year. One, because you've got the midnight sun. People like to celebrate Christmas and New Year's down there. But in terms of wildlife, that's when the baby eggs are hatching and you get the baby penguins. And for a lot of people, that's quite a special experience that people like to see. So that's really the main reason I would say you go down there, unless it's time off for Christmas or traveling at that period of time for a special reason. Also, the whales start arriving in January. So there's lots and lots of whales down there as well, but they're migratory. So every year they go from Antarctica up to the equator and back to Antarctica. They also do the same in the Arctic. But for Antarctica, they'll start arriving in January, and they're really there in mass in February, which is, if you really want to maximize the wildlife experience, the end of the year is better. So much like the landscape experience is better at the start, the wildlife is better at the end, and that's basically because by mid-February, all of the chick penguins have grown up. So now you've got twice as many penguins. The seals are always there as well. The birds are always there as well. But now you've got the whales there in mass. You've got minke whales and blue whales and humpback whales. And I mean, when I was there, I saw 10s, if not 20s, every single day. I've got a video of a minke whale, which they're a smaller whale, and they're quite curious, coming up and nudging its nose on the zodiac. It's quite a surreal experience. So there's never a bad time to go. There's always beautiful landscapes. There's always amazing animal wildlife. But there are certain periods of the season where one is better than the other.
Okay, great. And yeah, of course, we can be sending all this information to all of the audience, because I think these are key, understanding some key selling points about like when people really want to know a little bit more about when to go. And I think this information you've given us it's incredible to determine like when do you really want to go. So
Yeah.
let's go a little further on, and what do you think we can expect when traveling to Antarctica? What would you say? What would be the main, like the unique selling points of this continent?
Yeah. There's so many. You'll be speechless. I mean, I love Antarctica, but I would expect that everyone else will too. And I was saying to Andres earlier, it's one of those places that it's kind of always on your bucket list, because it's Antarctica. It's like the Galapagos, or maybe somewhere else or Machu Picchu, where you've always wanted to go. It's one of the few places, though, once I've gone, I want to get back there as quickly as possible. And despite how many times I go, that feeling never goes away. It really feels like you're in a remote area. You feel safe and all that, but you feel like you're at the end of the world, and you're completely, the size of the glaciers and the mountains, just you can't even describe it. And although you do have all the luxuries on being on board a nice ship, The Ocean Endeavour has restaurants and bar and pool and sauna and all that stuff to keep you comfortable. Um, but you feel like you're on an expedition, right? You're navigating through fjords and uh, and visiting next to glaciers, and there's just thousands of penguins around you all the time, and you end up in the morning making a hot cup of coffee and walking out on deck and looking for whales, and it's just that's basically, I don't know how else to describe it. I
Yeah,
suppose in terms of actually going there, and I can't remember what the next slide is, but in terms of the day-to-day life, um, the I can kind of run you through that. Essentially, you find your way to Ushuaia. Ushuaia is the main port city for, so the Ocean Endeavour, for example, to go to Antarctica. It sits at the bottom of Argentina. And actually, a lot of people do a lot of pre and post in South America as well. So I'm sure Pure can help them with that. If you're going through, I usually fly through Buenos Aires, so I usually take an extra day or two to get some wine and steak in me before I head down. um, and then you get on the ship. Now I will say, when you get on the ship, the first 2 days are crossing the Drake Passage. So I know the Drake Passage has a bit of a reputation, but ultimately it can be as calm as you see in the photo, or it can be pretty rough. And there's no way to know. It's like weather, you don't know till you get down there. But I will say it is very safe. It's never really as bad as people think. Um, but if you do suffer from seasickness, just make sure you take your medicine as soon as you get on the ship, because that way, by the time you get out of the Beagle Channel, which is about 3 hours after departure, the medicine's in your system already and it's working. So that's my big advice. I get quite seasick, so I just make sure I take that medicine, and I'm perfectly fine. So you end up crossing the Drake Passage for a day and a half, maybe 2 days. And then you get to the Shetland Islands, which is the first island group in Antarctica, and you start seeing icebergs and you start seeing mountains, and you might even start spotting whales, and generally you get Antarctic birds that are flying above you, and it starts to build that anticipation and excitement because you're starting to see it draw closer. And then you'll arrive actually in Antarctica, right? But kind of skirting on the peninsula there on the mainland. And ultimately that's where all the fun starts. You wake up on the third morning, I believe, the third morning or the second morning, and essentially the idea of going to Antarctica isn't to stay on the ship, right? Think of the ship as your accommodation and your restaurant and your car. That's really what it is. It's just to be able to support you while you're down there, at least in my opinion. But the whole point of going down there is getting off and exploring as much as possible. So you'll wake up in the morning, you'll have an announcement by the expedition team leader, and then you might make your way to breakfast. You might have a coffee, go out on deck, and just take it all in. Generally, the ships are entering the bays in the morning, so it's really nice to kind of get on deck and see that happening. And you might spot whales or seals. The expedition team, they're really, really good at making sure that they maximize people's experience. So if there is something to see, they'll come over the PA and let everybody know. Oh, hey everyone, if you're interested, there's a pot of whales out on our port side, so just make your way out onto the deck, stuff like that. And then basically after breakfast you get ready to leave, right? So on the way down you would have been assigned to a group, you would have been given your boots and your jacket, which are provided, and then your group gets called. Now on the ship there's about 198 people, which basically means we can have everyone off the ship at once, which is what you want if you're trying to maximize time off the ship. So what they do is the first half people, the first say 9,900 people, they will disembark, and they will put on the Zodiacs, which are small boats that hold about 10 people, 11 people each. and they'll take you to the landing. The landing might be an Antarctic base, it might be a penguin colony. Usually it's one of those, or it might be a different location as well, where maybe there's a seal colony, but it'll ferry you there, and then it'll come back, it'll pick up all the other people on the ship. And whilst the first 100 are exploring the landings and visiting penguins and sightseeing on land, the other 100 are doing the same on the water. And so you got to remember, it's all the wildlife are water-based, and on boats you can access a lot more places than you can on land. So on land you can get really up close and personal with the snow and the penguins and the wildlife and hiking up hills and taking photos. But on the ocean, you can skirt around and you can, there's penguins hopping in the water next to you, and you might be able to, get really close to whales, and you're trying to spot whales and exploring other sides of the area of the bay, and finding a lot of the seals try and avoid the land. They generally sleep on like the ice floes that are floating out there, so you can get close to those. And so it offers a different perspective, and it's very, very exciting. And get close to glaciers and stuff floating in the water. And then after about an hour and a half, you swap. So those that were on the Zodiac go on to land. Those that were on land go on to the Zodiac, and you spend another hour and a half experiencing the other. And then you get back on board and you'll warm up. You might go to the sauna. You might have a go and just hang out. But then they'll serve lunch, and during that kind of lunchtime period, they'll move the ship to a different destination close by. And then in the afternoon, basically you repeat the process, exploring a different area. And so really the point of going down there is to maximize time off the ship and explore and get off the ship as much as possible. And so you can get off the ship up to about 6 hours every day. And really it feels like you're never on board. There's nice things on board and you can relax, and if you want to, you don't have to stay out there, but you never feel like you're stuck on board. You feel like you're always out exploring. And then overnight the ship moves much further away whilst we're sleeping, and then the next morning you basically do the same thing in a new location. So you're trying to explore all the way down the peninsula during your time, and then at the end, after about 6 days, you'll come back.
Awesome. And I think that there are going to be more questions at the very end about like expectations and about like the time on the sheep and the
Mhm.
information. But like, let's go a little further on, and let's talk now about um, the Ocean Endeavor itself and
Mhm.
the itineraries we have. So I'm just gonna show a quick video. Let me know if to see it. Just give me 1 second, and I'm just gonna show a quick video on the
I
Ocean
think
Endeavor.
Andres, I think your headset is disconnected, because we can hear you, but from very far away.
Can you hear me now?
A bit better. It's still from far away. It's just it was like a clunk, and then we lost your
Is it
audio.
fine now? Is it fine now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right now
we
it's
can
fine.
do that.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Yes.
I'm just let me know if you can actually get to hear the audio, so we can put the video on.
So this video isn't in Antarctica, but it is the Ocean Endeavor.
Okay, what a great alternative. Just let me just go back to our presentation. Wonderful. Okay, so let me just pause it. Okay, we'll just go back to the presentation right now, and great. So I don't know what happened. Sorry, guys. Just having okay.
It's the Mac.
It's the Mac.
Yeah, it's because you use a Mac. Yeah.
I'll do the same thing. I'll be completely lost.
Okay.
Oh no, what's happening?
Okay, I'm just gonna open it again. I think we're fine. But I'm just gonna close this video just in case. Okay, perfect. So I'm just, it pops up all the time. Okay. All right, so let's go back to the presentation and to
Can you
speak a little
just
bit
click?
about the
Yeah.
ocean endeavor. Can you see my presentation?
You know, you keep
It,
clicking on the video.
definitely
Maybe
want
it's
to.
better to go out of the full screen and then
yeah.
click to the next slide.
You can also use the arrows from your keyboard, and that will make it go to the next slide.
Okay, let's go that way.
There we go.
Here we go. Sorry for that. So, what kind of activities do you think you can do during the visit? You were talking previously on the previous slide about the activity. So probably if we can talk a little bit further here, so people can understand about like all the activities that you can do and on board and all the excursions that you could be doing, like when you do the excursions. Either in the peninsula or in the zodiac and stuff like this. Can you tell us a little further about this?
Yeah, definitely. I guess what's included on the ship is basically everything, except alcohol. You have to pay your own alcohol. But ultimately, all the services on board are included. There's gym, there's yoga, there's daily lectures, there's different bar rooms, they do entertainment activities on board, there's spas, so it's all included. And the main thing you'll be doing is getting off the ship, but like I said, you do spend a bit of time on board, and so some people like to stay fit whilst doing yoga and the gym. I tried that once and then I stopped, so I'd rather enjoy the sauna and talking to people over a drink, and going and seeing the daily lectures. Funny enough, the daily lectures might sound maybe not as entertaining, but from every time I've been, it fills up with everyone on the ship. And I think the reason why is because, one, the people giving the presentation are the guides on the ship, because all the guides are scientists or experts in a certain field. So one might talk about penguins, a penguinologist, and penguin expert. Another might talk about weather systems. Another might talk about whale migrations. And I think because you're down there experiencing it every single day, you also want to learn about it as well. And so it just makes it more alive, and you're understanding what you're actually experiencing. The land excursions are included as well, which I covered before, which is the zodiac cruising and exploring on the land. Another interesting thing that's kind of a rite of passage is the polar plunge. So basically, and it is the most fun time. Essentially, they pick a day where the weather is best, and anyone that wants to do it can. And basically, they'll put music on and they'll tie a rope to you, and basically you jump off the ship. It's pretty straightforward like that. They all do it in a really nice way. They have photographers out on Zodiacs to capture the moment. And generally everyone participates, and even the people that don't want to jump in the water, they will go up onto the balcony and cheer everybody on, and it's just a lot of fun, and a little bit of a different experience. They'll play music, and the rest of the day ends up being a bit of a party, and just a fun time. So all of that's actually included. I don't think those photos are working when you click on them, but ultimately, yeah, going on to landings, and all of the, I guess, experiences on board, so that you're comfortable and you enjoy yourself. It's all part of the package. But I think there's also a couple on the next slide. So there are a few activities that aren't included, that you have to pay a little extra for, and these are. Oh, we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, okay, yeah, but
No, here
yeah,
we are.
you were
We'll do it
talking.
here.
Yeah,
So
do you want to talk about right now the additional experiences?
yeah, let's talk about
Uh,
that, because it kind
okay,
of flows in
perfect.
quite well. Before I get onto that, now we do offer. I know the Ocean Endeavour does offer additional experiences, and these are kind of very unique, kind of bucket list experiences that aren't for everyone, but some people might really want to do them, and so we do offer these as extra. And so they include sea kayaking, camping on the ice, snowshoeing, and a kind of photography masterclass. And so they're very specific for, I guess, people that really, really love kayaking and adventure kayaking and want to be out kayaking with the whales, people who want an overnight stay on the ice, to say that they've slept overnight or camped overnight in Antarctica. And then those that are, really, really into photography, as well. So for the kayaking, it is an all or nothing kind of program. And what I mean by that is it's kayaking every single day, and essentially you pay to kayak every single day. You can choose not to kayak every day if you don't want to, because it does replace the landings. But ultimately it's a pay for the whole package deal. And there's about 10 spots on each voyage, and that comes with, guides and instruction and gear and all of that kind of stuff. So it is a really, really amazing program, but you have to be quite committed to kayaking. But it's beautiful. You can get away from the ship, away from the noise, and being in a kayak, you can just immerse yourself in the sound of nothing, or chase or get close to whales. But then the camping is kind of for everyone, right? It's a one-night experience, but it only happens in November, December, and the start of January, because we need enough guaranteed snow and ice on the landings in order to do it. But it is quite an experience. They bring out all of the tents, all the bivy tents, portable eco toilets, guides to look after you. And essentially you sleep out overnight, and hopefully a penguin doesn't kind of run into you. It's quite incredible. And then the photography program. Now, I will be honest, I have an old iPhone that I use, and it looks like my photos were taken by a professional photographer, but that's only because Antarctica is that good. You can't really take a bad photo. But there are people that are maybe amateur photographers, or they're really into the DSLR cameras or photography, and they want to take that to the next level. So we do have a full photography program, and this comes with masterclasses from our photography experts on how to adjust your camera for all the whiteness, how to take the best photos with wildlife and the landscapes of Antarctica, basically real personal instructional experiences. And then it also comes with these custom built zodiacs that allow 180 degrees forward facing, basically maximizing your ability to take photos and also access different areas. And those zodiacs are exclusive to people in the photography program. And then following on from that, further instruction, developing, editing, all that kind of stuff. So it really is a comprehensive program for those that want to
Talk a little bit about the itineraries now. So what do you recommend in terms of, like, first of all, the options that you actually have in terms of number of days, in terms of what kind of things, like comparison from one itinerary to other, why should you pick one itinerary over the other one? So
Mhm.
tell me a little bit about that. What do you think about this?
Yeah. Well, there's 3 main itineraries: 11 days, 14 days, and 21 days. Essentially, the 11-day one is the standard. It is the most common one, and it really gives you the real sense of going to Antarctica, particularly if you only have 2 weeks. I know a lot of people in North America only get 2 weeks of holiday, so 11 days is perfect. And essentially, that means you go to Ushuaia. The first night stay is included. You arrive the day before you depart, cross the Drake Passage, and then you spend about 6 days exploring the peninsula, and then you come back. And yeah, it really opens you up to experiencing Antarctica, and it's heaps of time, and yeah, it's the most common one that we have, that there is. And then there's a 14-day option. Now, the main 14-day option is the same as the 11-day, but it continues south to the Antarctic Circle. So it's a longer voyage of exploring the peninsula, and you end up going much further south. And for a lot of people, they've been to the Arctic Circle, they want to say they've been to the Antarctic Circle, and that's quite a key element. There is another 14-day option, which instead of going further down the west side of the peninsula, it actually goes back up and goes into the Weddell Sea on the east side of the peninsula. And this is a very kind of remote, unique voyage that really, I think the Ocean Endeavour is the only ship that goes there. But the east side of the peninsula is where you get these massive tabletop icebergs, the ones that are kilometers long, and then there is, some emperor penguin colonies there, which you don't get on the west side. And around that area is also where the history of Ernest Shackleton took place. So there are some good 14-day options, but the 21-day option is basically that I'm going once in my life. I have all the time in the world. I want to experience everything kind of Antarctica. And so it goes down and does the same exploration on the peninsula. But then following that, it also goes across to South Georgia. Now, South Georgia is a subantarctic mountainous island, which means it's got incredible contrasts of mountains and glaciers and ocean and all that fun stuff. It's also where Sir Ernest Shackleton is buried. If you're into history at all, he's probably one of Antarctica's most famous explorers. But the main thing, the key thing about South Georgia is it's one of the few places in the world that you get the big king penguins. And because there's only a few places that they go to, in South Georgia, there's nearly 1 million, maybe 700,000, which you can't really put into perspective. And the sound and the smell is extraordinary, and it's just a sea of black penguins as far as the eye can see. It's just amazing. It's outstanding. And so if that's an experience in its own, and it's well worth going to South Georgia to see. And then following that, you do go up to the Falkland Islands or the Las Malvinas, which is a really kind of unique subantarctic island that's a British overseas territory. So it is like it does have a small little kind of English town, which is a bit bizarre considering where you are. And it's also it's the only island that features every kind of penguin. So the peninsula has certain types of penguins, South Georgia has certain types of penguins, the Falklands has them all. So it is, and it's a bit warmer. It has different kind of scenery, and it almost looks like an English countryside, but it's another different kind of experience as well. So those are the three main itineraries, the 11-day, the 14, and the 21, and they all have different aspects that make them unique.
Wonderful. I think later on we might have some questions on the itinerary at the end of the presentation, so we can extend further a little bit on that. Let's go on the. Let me just. 1 second. Already spoke about that. So I'm just gonna show a little bit about activities and wildlife that James previously talked about. So we can check a quick video about this. Let me know if you're able to see it. It's loading.
The zodiac that I was mentioning, all the penguins.
Great. So go back here again. Presentation. Just go back here real quick. So we can. So I don't know if you want to like briefly talk about the sheep, the Ocean Endeavor, and you know, like the unique selling points comparing to other ships going to the Antarctica. What do you think it'd be like ideally
Yeah.
to let people know about like why we should pick the Ocean Endeavor when doing this excursion?
Yeah, well, the Ocean Endeavor is really for those that want to maximize their time off the ship. The whole program is really built about, getting you off the ship as much as possible and experiencing, Antarctica, and being there. It is a very comfortable ship. It's equivalent to a 4-star hotel. It's very nice. And it's a bit bigger, so it has a bit more space. And as you saw in the previous video, there's a lot on offer. But the main advantage of the Ocean Endeavor is we've done a lot of little things to maximize the time off the ship. And in terms of compared to other ships, a lot of the other ships are fantastic as well, but they really focus on luxury and they make you pay for luxury. But it doesn't really focus as much on the getting off the ship and experiencing Antarctica. So it's really for those that want to have a real high value of a lower price point on still a nice ship, but really getting off and experiencing Antarctica as much as possible. So I think that's the main thing. And things like, being able to halve the amount of time it takes to get off the ship, being able to have more zodiacs and more guides in order to maximize, able to get more people off more quickly and maybe able to explore further and have more freedom in order to walk around and explore the landings. So all of those little things really add a lot of value to the excursions and really put the Ocean Endeavor in a very favorable position for people that want to get real good value in terms of not needing to pay for luxury, yet still maximizing their trip off the ship. It's still a very fantastic, the expedition team is world class. We've handpicked them from the industry to ensure that they're some of the best out there. In terms of the restaurant, it's very high level and can cater to all dietary requirements. I experienced this firsthand when I went one time with my partner Emma, and she had a very specific diet because of an illness she had, and they presented her every single day with beautiful options that she could choose from that perfectly was gluten-free, it was lactose-free, it was basically air, but it was so delicious. It was so things like that as well on board the ship. So that's really where the Ocean Endeavour stands out, and I think when you go down there and see for yourself, you'll appreciate that. It really thinks about the passenger and their experience first.
Wonderful. Just to finalize here, why Pure Antarctica? Just want to say that together with James and his support and like designing the itineraries, we're always gonna be able to give you a great assistance from either our office from Chile or Argentina for any pre or post tour coordination, that which is basically what you do when you do it Antarctica, like what James said previously, like staying a couple of days extra before or after the trip in either Buenos Aires or anywhere in Chile. um, Another important thing is that we're going to be able to help you with a one-stop shop itinerary in South America, plus the Antarctic excursion. We're always going to be doing only B2B business. So if you need your passengers to be treated in a certain manner, we're going to be able to actually personalize that either in the service of like showing the offer for you trespassing to your clients, or in the actual operation of the ship, or any of the tours, pre or post tours in South America that you're going to do previous to your excursion to the Antarctica. Another very important that together with the Ocean Endeavor, we do have a highly respect for the natural and cultural heritage. That's very important, a very important fact here. And of course, we can, as I already mentioned, we can always tailor made the itineraries and personalize all the service depending on what your passengers need. So saying these, I would like to open the session if anyone has a question in regards to the itineraries, in regards to the destination. We'll be more than happy to respond your doubts. So please, if you want to open your microphone, please, you can just start asking questions about like the presentation. Also, if you don't want to open your microphone, you can also drop your question on box. Definitely, I can read it for you. Um, and so we have one question right now from Christian. Is Antarctica open to visit now? Is everybody allowed for a polar plunge, or do they need a medical report for this activity?
No, yeah. So the Antarctic season opened in limited capacity last season, and this season it's going to be fully open. So we're expecting a very successful season from basically November onwards. Really, for us, in terms of the past 2 years, the one of the biggest restrictions was from Argentina, because you technically had to enter through Argentina to get to the ship. So we had to follow Argentinian guidelines and entry requirements and guidelines on board. But that's all kind of gone away now, and we're able to. I was just in Argentina last month, in fact, and last month, and you're able to travel freely. So no, this season's going to be fantastic. We're really looking forward to it. With the polar plunge, I make a joke that everyone has to do it, but no, you don't need a medical report at all. It's everybody is able to do it. It's up to them. It's voluntary. Probably about 90% of people on board end up doing it. It's quite safe. They have I wish I had a video to show, but yeah, they have 2 zodiacs. They have a safety zodiac and a photography zodiac. And then essentially they have crew and they get everyone lined up. You wear your robe, you stay warm. And then when it's your turn, basically you're just in a bathing suit or whatever you want to jump in the water in, and they tie a harness to you, and then you jump off, and then they help you back on board. They wrap a towel around you, serve you a drink, and that's it. So no, you don't need any medical report at all. It's open to all, but it is voluntary, so you don't have to do it if you don't want to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a question that you would like to clarify a little bit about the presentation? So we have another question. What's the temperature average in January?
Yeah, I was going to cover this. I realized I didn't speak about it before, but I mean, it's not as cold as you think, but it's still Antarctica. I guess that's the best answer for you. In January, that's the warmest month of the year. So in Antarctica, and you're also on the ocean. So the ocean temperature, you're in summer. So for Antarctica, that's, -5 to 0 degrees Celsius, which in Fahrenheit would be around 25 to 32 degrees. The real main factor, I mean, if you're from the cold areas of the US, you would know the main factor is the wind chill. Sometimes you get winds that come down from the glaciers. They're called katabatic winds. They can be a bit nippy, but the daytime temperature is not as cold as you might imagine. It's similar to a winter in the US, and that's all season. End of December, early January is the warmest time of year. But even in November and March, it's -5, -6 degrees maybe. So as long as it's similar to dressing for skis, going out into the snow or something like that. The jacket and the boots are provided on board, particularly if you don't have your own jacket. But yeah, the boots are, like wellies or wellies is a British term. We call them gum boots. I don't know what you call them in the US, but but basically they're insulated, they're waterproof. And otherwise it's just layers. You just pack layers similar that you would when you're going to the snow. So yeah, it's not too bad. Just need to bundle up basically.
Okay, wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anyone else has a question? Perfect. Thank you, Jaime, for your great question. I think that clarified a lot to people. All right. So maybe if we're gonna wait a couple of seconds, if we can see if anyone else has a question. But otherwise, thank you, James, for waking up at 2 a.m. Australia time to get and give us a little bit further and more interesting information about this incredible destination. So we really appreciate that. And if you guys have any other questions that may arise after this presentation, you can always contact us to Pure Travel Group. I'm just gonna post my email here in the chat box so you can actually um, have it, and feel free to come back to us for any information that you might need. Either it could be marketing content if you need, or presentations, videos, itineraries. We could totally help you with that. And Chris, I'll give you the words. And thank you for taking the time on joining this showcase session on Antarctica.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
very much
much.
for having me.
Yes, thank you, James, and thank you, Andres. It's been wonderful learning about Antarctica. I've been cold just hearing from it. So, but everybody, thank you for assisting. I wish you the best and continue with your appointments in Census of South America. And this will be recorded and it will be sent and shared with you all. So thank you and have a great rest of the networking sessions. Bye, guys.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Bye bye.